So today we're going to be doing a brake job on my daughter-in-law's 2017 Ford Explorer. This is the vehicle that transports my grandchildren every single day, so I want to make sure she has good brakes. Never done one before on one of these, but I've done some research. I think it's going to be pretty easy, and so let's get started. Okay, so on this particular setup, I guess I would call it a retainer bolt. It's actually a Torx bit. It's a T40. Okay, so there are two 17 millimeter bolts that hold the caliper onto the caliper bracket. These usually aren't too bad to take off. The caliper bracket bolts, though, have Loctite on them, and those are usually a little bit of a bear because they're torqued down to like 111, 115 pounds. These are like 55 pounds, I believe. So these will be a little bit easier coming out. So let's see if I can get this thing undone. So I'm going to take that off with an air ratchet, I think. Okay, so from what I hear, you need to really make sure that each bolt goes into the right place when you're done. So I want to look at these and not get these. There we go. Okay, so this one has a little bit of a rubber, looks like a rubber bushing or something on the bottom. So that's going to be on top. This one does not have it, so we will put these back in that order. Okay, so next we're going to hang this caliper right here. Actually, in my last brake video, which was my son's F-150, a very good friend of mine pointed out the fact that I forgot to hang the caliper and it did fall. Thank God we didn't damage the line, but we're going to hold this up with a bungee cord. They also have hooks that you can buy, and I didn't get one yet, so this takes a little bit of time. There we go. Okay. And we're just gonna hold this up there. Figure out the best way to do this. There we go. Okay, so pull these pads out. And it's a good idea just to remember how they were on. You got these clips right here. I usually try to lay them down in the order that they came off so I can remember when I go to put them back. Okay. Actually, the front ones aren't horrible. Yeah, it's time. It's time. Okay, so now we're going to tackle these bigger bolts here that hold the bracket on. These are the ones that can be a bear. I did bring a breaker bar with me if we need to do it. These are going to be probably 19, I'm going to guess. Here's an 18. No, 18 millimeter. And let's see if we can get this thing off. Well, we determined that I can get this gun in there, so instead of using a breaker bar, we're going to use this. So a lot of times these are completely rusted out, and there's really no rust at all on this. I always take a small brush and get down in here, because you always want to clean it up if it's rusty at all. But this one's actually in great condition. So the caliper itself looks good. Nothing's torn. We have a compression tool. I'll show you how to use that in just a moment, but we'll get these pistons back in. But I think we're good to go. So we're going to go to the auto parts store, pick up the pads and the rotors, because there's a few different types for this. We're going to just drop it on their counter and say we want this. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay, so a good way to be able to get the grease off, because they put an oil on them so that they don't rough, is put it on backwards. Spray it, wipe it off, and then turn it around, and that takes all that oil that they put on there off from the factory. We're going to flip it around and see we have that retaining screw. Put this back the same way, and I'm just going to hit this real quick. And wipe off the oil. Okay, then we're going to put this retaining screw in. And that just, actually I like it because it holds these in place. If you don't have it, really the calipers, brake pads hold it in place, but this is a nice setup. Okay, there, we're good to go there. Now we're going to come in here, and I have a kit that I had to buy to put these pistons back. And I had to buy the kit because on this particular vehicle, the pistons don't just go back straight, they twist back. It's like I guess it's a twisting deal where these just push back. So I had to buy a kit. I'm going to try the kit for the first time. So this is the kit that I got. It basically right now, I'm just slowly forcing that piston back in. Okay, that's where it needs to be. I'm going to unloosen it and then move over to this next one here. Good grief. So what we're going to do here, we have these clips. All the new brake pads come with new hardware, so we just need to look at these and remember that this outward bracket goes on the outside. So we're going to pull these off. They come off pretty easy. The moment I said that, it wouldn't come off. I'm going to pull these out. Now, I've heard in some of my research, a lot of people have different opinions on where to put the grease and all of that. This area right here, and it's starting to rust a little bit. There's a few different schools of thought. It's always a good idea to get the rust off if you can, because if you think about it, if it rusts there, it's going to push up against the clip, which is going to eventually bind the brake pad because of that. The tolerances are so small. So again, many different schools of thought. What I'm going to do, and I think it makes the most sense, is I am going to put a little bit of the caliper grease down here, just a little bit, because if there's any moisture that gets in there, at least that won't rust again, and that'll be under the clip. And again, some people don't put any there at all. I just think that's not a bad idea. So give me a second here. Figure this out. Here we go. So we're just going to pop these in, and they go in pretty easy. go. And this one right here. There we go. So new clips, it's all cleaned. Now we're gonna, the other thing I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna put a little bit of this grease on here. These boots are in good shape. Always checking to make sure there's no pinholes. But I just think it's a good idea to keep them moist a little bit so that they don't dry rot. It certainly doesn't hurt to take another minute or so and hit those. And that'll just keep them a little bit moist. So then now what we're going to do is we're going to bolt this back up to the thingamabobber here. We're going to bolt it all together, and then we'll put the caliper on with the new pads. So these are those pins, and I'm just going to make sure they're nice and clean, because we are going to grease those up. It's a good idea just to get those cleaned up as best we can. Okay. Let's bolt this puppy back on. Go on like that. And we're going to get these bolts here. Now, one other thing. These have a little bit of Loctite on them. I'm going to put a blue Loctite back, which is a medium strength, just so they don't come back out. And there is a torque on these, and I'll share that with you in just a moment. So I am going to put a little bit of the grease on here. I'm careful not to get it on the actual pad. Now, some people have said that this will collect dirt and rust. If you live in a climate where there's a lot of salt on the roads, you have hard winters, maybe not do this. I've always done it. I've never had a problem. So I'm going to do it. And we're just going to fit this down into the track here. Oops. There we go. Okay, those are in.
Oh, those are both inners?
Yeah, I'm thinking that I'm gonna look.
This is his outer.
It does. All right. So correction, I didn't notice that one was an inner and one was an outer. So we corrected the issue. This is now an outer, which it should be. Okay. inner and outer. We're good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to unhook this. Everything looks good here. And my friend Jimmy, if you're watching this, I did it right this time. So what we're going to do is now get this in the right spot here. Okay. Oops. You want to make sure that those rubber boots are in the right spot. And now I'm going to take and definitely put some caliper grease on these. You want these to move freely in there. And again, you got to be careful not to rip the boot. You want the boot to be in the right spot. Okay, we'll do the other one. So the bolts that bolted the caliper bracket onto the housing here, I think what I read it was 111 pounds with a torque wrench. The bolts that bolt the caliper to the bracket, I read it was 53 pounds, so that's what I'm going to do. So I've got a torque wrench here. We're going to hear that noise. That means that we're where we need to be. I'm going to just double check it. Okay, everything is good. Brake pads are on. Once we pump the brake pedal a few times, it will compress and you won't have this, it's a little bit loose right now, but that's just because the pistons are not forward. So I'm going to put the tire on and then we're going to go to the other side. So we have the back wheel off. This is the rear brake and a little different setup. The sizes are different. The caliper bolts are 13 millimeter. You have to use a long socket on the top one, and on the bottom one you have to use a short socket because there's a brake line here. And so just have your toolbox ready and we'll pull this off. Be right back. So my son and daughter-in-law were saying that the back, they could feel grinding in the back, and this pad is wore right down to the rivets, which was digging into the rotor. So it was definitely time to change this. Okay, so this caliper, as you can see, doesn't just push in like the other ones. This twists in. There's two notches. I got this disc brake pad and caliper kit at Harbor Freight. It was $45, and it has a variety of different parts. So this, you can see, this will fit right into these tabs here. Right in there, and then this fits in here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to get this thing where it needs to be, and then I'm going to hold this nut. Hold on a second here. There we go. This, by slide rights then should screw in. You can cut the video for a minute here. All right, so the job is done. Took us a couple hours, but these back calipers are a challenge to turn them in, turn the piston in, but we did figure it out. This kit right here was worth its weight in gold. Could not have done the job without it. Harbor Freight, 45 bucks, definitely worth it. So yeah, the job is done. We're gonna take it for a test drive. And want to thank you for watching Fix It Warrior. I really appreciate your support, and hopefully these videos are helping you out. So until then, God bless you, and we'll see you next time.